I'm Will's Element of Newmark Knight Frank. Today we're having a conversation with Mark Turner of WSFS Bank in Wilmington, Delaware.
How do we navigate the melding of what we've been good at for many, many years, which is physical delivery of services through brick and mortar, through people, to other people, whether they be consumers or businesses. How do we meld that with what's obviously a fast-moving trend of people wanting to interact with other people digitally through their mobile device. And that's probably one of the most significant strategic questions and challenges we face, because at this point people want both. We've seen in their behaviors, we've seen in the surveys that people want both. And there's in fact a misperception out there that millennials only want to interact, and millennials have now become the largest segment of generation of society, overtaking the boomers recently, only want to interact digitally. In fact, if you look at our channel usage, whether it be physical, phone, ATM, internet, mobile, the largest users of all of our channels are the millennial generation. So what we invest in which channel and where and what we do in those channels is our biggest strategic challenge. The question that we ask ourselves is how do we stay relevant? How do we stay on top of, maybe even ahead of, what's going on out there in the fintech world? Because a lot is going on. And we did something unique last year that's carried into this year and will carry into next year in terms of answering the question, how do we see what's next or what's around the corner? The board commissioned me to take 3 months off out of the bank and go on a sabbatical. And I went around the country and visited 49 other companies, some in the traditional banking space that were doing non-traditional things, some in the fintech world, some in the traditional world like Walmart and Becton Dickinson and Wawa, to look at other institutions, other companies that were doing leading practices, so we could get a beat on with all this stuff that's going on in the world and all the changes that are going on. What makes sense, what's really going to take off, what makes sense for us to do, what makes sense for us not to do, and if it makes sense for us to do we do it? Do we need to do it now? Do we need to get started on it now but do it later? Or is it something that's a big project that we need to start thinking about, but it's 2 or 3 years down the road for us? And so we put things, when I came back from that tour, I had a file of all my notes and having met with these people, and with the board and the executive management team, we prioritized 12 things that we're going to be doing. We put them in buckets. The first bucket was, we're not going to do it, so we put it in the do not bucket. Blockchain was one of those things. Not that blockchain isn't going to be very important in the future of automated ledger, in the future especially of certain financial companies, but for our size company, it's probably something that's going to be developed and standardized for us that at a later date we can plug into, so it didn't make sense for us to invest ourselves in blockchain. But there are other things we put into the do now category. So robo-advising as part of a wealth platform is something that is starting to take off, and there are really good platforms out there. So our wealth team has now been working to evaluate what platform do we want to plug into that's consistent with our brand. We've also it's not just about technology, it's about leadership, and it's about the changing dynamics and the demographics. So one of the things we're putting together is what we call the dynamic dozen. So 12 millennials from throughout the organization, high potential millennials, will get together on a yearly basis, and they'll do a project for the organization that has value in the organization. They got to deliver at the end of that year, but during that year, they'll become cohesive as a cohort and meet with each other, and hopefully therefore generate more ideas and become more attached to each other and to the organization. But they'll also meet with executive management, those of us in the boomer generation who don't know as well what's going on in that generation, and they'll help educate us on how that generation might think or behave differently than I'm used to behaving or thinking. So those are the things. It was a very unique dedication of time and effort to ask the CEO of the bank to step out for 3 months, have no responsibilities in the bank, and just go out and learn what's going on out there, and then triage what's going on out there in the world and bring back what's relevant to our organization. And that's another way that we stay innovative.